The bell rang at Brightstar High School, and the hallways filled with students rushing to their classes. The noise was almost deafening. Shouts, laughter, and footsteps echoed across the walls. Among the crowd, a quiet girl named Ada walked slowly, holding her small bag tightly. Her uniform was plain and her shoes were old, but she carried herself with a quiet dignity that made her stand out in a different way. Ada had just transferred to the school. She was nervous but tried not to show it. She moved carefully between the rows of students, her eyes scanning the hall for her new classroom. Most of the students barely noticed her, busy with their own friends and gossip. But not everyone ignored her. A group of girls by the lockers watched Ada carefully. Kemi, tall and confident, nudged Bola, her closest friend, and whispered something that made both of them giggle. "Look at her," Kemi said with a smirk. "Who even dresses like that? She looks like she doesn't belong here." Bola laughed, covering her mouth with her hand. "She looks so plain. And that bag. I've never seen one like it. Maybe she is poor or something." Ada felt their eyes on her but did not react. She lowered her gaze slightly and kept walking, holding her bag closer to her chest. Her calmness seemed to annoy them even more. During break, Ada sat alone under a mango tree near the edge of the schoolyard. She opened her small notebook and began to read quietly, listening to the sounds of children playing nearby. She liked the peaceful corner, away from the noise and chaos of the school. Kemi and Bola noticed her under the tree. "There she is again," Kemi whispered. "Sitting there all alone. Does she even know how to talk to people?" Bola shook her head. "She probably has no friends. Look at her face, it's like she's scared of the world." The girls walked toward Ada, giggling. "Hey, forest girl," Kemi shouted, trying to get her attention. "What are you doing here all alone?" Ada looked up at them calmly. She didn't flinch or respond with anger. She only smiled softly. Her smile was quiet, almost mysterious, and it made Kemi's face twist in frustration. "Why isn't she scared?" Bola muttered under her breath. "She should be running by now. That's what normal people do when someone teases them." Kemi crossed her arms, clearly annoyed. "Well, we'll fix that. She needs to know who runs this school." The girls laughed loudly, trying to make Ada uncomfortable. They whispered behind her back, pointing and teasing. Ada continued to sit quietly, flipping the pages of her notebook as if she could not hear them. The other students passing by looked at the scene. Some felt sorry for Ada. Others watched, curious to see what would happen next. But Ada remained calm, like she was in her own world. Later, when the bell rang to signal the end of break, Kemi and Bola followed Ada to her classroom. They shoved her lightly as she entered the door. "Careful, forest girl," Kemi said, grinning. "Don't trip on your own feet." Ada simply picked up her bag and adjusted it over her shoulder. She said quietly, "Be careful with what you start." The words were soft, almost too soft, but they carried a calm authority that made Kemi and Bola pause. They looked at each other, confused. No one had ever spoken to them that way before, especially someone so quiet and small. "Did she just?" Bola whispered, her voice shaking slightly. Kemi scowled. "Ignore her. She's probably just trying to sound important. We'll see who laughs last." For the rest of the day, Ada kept to herself. She listened in class, took careful notes, and helped anyone who needed it quietly without drawing attention to herself. Her calmness puzzled the other students, especially the ones who liked to tease and bully. By the end of the first week, Ada had already faced several small insults and tricks from Kemi, Bola, and their friends. But no matter what they did, Ada never retaliated. She never yelled or complained. She never even looked angry. Some students began to notice something different about her. "There's something about Ada," one boy whispered in the hallway. "I don't know, she's so quiet, but there's something about her eyes. Like she sees everything even when she looks like she isn't paying attention." Others felt uneasy around her. "She doesn't seem scared," another girl said. "Most people would cry or yell when those two tease them. But she just sits there, smiling." Ada's silence and calmness became her shield. She did not need to fight or shout. Her strength was quiet and steady, like a river flowing under a heavy stone. By the second week, the teasing had become routine, but Ada's calm nature continued to frustrate Kemi and Bola. They tried to make her embarrassed in front of the whole school, but every time, Ada only smiled softly or said something short and calm. Nothing seemed to bother her. One afternoon after school, Kemi and Bola whispered to their friends. "We need to do something big," Kemi said. "She can't stay like this. We have to break her, make her cry, or make her run away." Bola nodded, her face serious. "Yes. But she's strange. I don't know why, but I feel nervous around her." Did you see how calm she was today? Even when we spilled her lunch tray, she just laughed softly. Kemi waved her hand. Nonsense. She's just a little girl. We'll see. Tomorrow we plan something bigger. That night, Ada sat at home in her small room. Her parents had taught her to be calm and careful. She knew the school would be full of challenges, and she understood that some people were cruel. But she also knew something they didn't know: a quiet girl could be stronger than anyone imagined. Ada closed her notebook and looked at the stars through her small window. Tomorrow will be another day, she whispered to herself. Let them try. I am ready. Her words were calm, but in them was a quiet strength, a promise that no one at Bright Star High would understand yet. Kemi and Bola had no idea that their teasing had only strengthened her resolve. And so, the quiet girl who seemed ordinary and weak became someone to watch, someone whose calm eyes held a power they could not yet see. The hallways of Bright Star High School were filled with chatter and laughter as students hurried to their classes. Ada walked calmly between the crowd, holding her small bag close to her chest. She had grown used to being the new girl, and she knew that her quiet nature made her a target for attention, especially from Kemi and Bola. These two girls had made it their mission to make her life difficult. It started with small things. One morning, Ada arrived in class to find her books missing. She looked around, confused, and noticed Kemi and Bola giggling behind a row of desks. Bola whispered, "Where do you think she hid them this time?" Kemi smirked. "Maybe she's too slow to notice we already took them." Ada did not panic. She calmly looked around, picked up her bag, and began searching quietly. Soon she found her books tucked under another desk. She picked them up and returned to her seat without saying a word. Her calmness made the two girls stare in frustration. The next day they decided to try something different. They poured water on her desk while she was in class. When Ada returned, she saw the small puddle. She sighed softly, grabbed some paper towels, and wiped the desk clean. "Clumsy much?" Kemi sneered from across the room. Ada looked up calmly and said nothing. Her soft smile was enough to make Kemi turn away in irritation. The bullying did not stop there. Kemi and Bola began spreading rumors about Ada. They whispered that she was poor, strange, and unlucky. Some students began to glance at her strangely in the hallways. Others laughed along, believing Kemi's words. Despite all this, Ada remained quiet. She never confronted them aggressively. She never shouted back or cried. She walked through the hallways with her calm eyes and steady steps. The more they tried to provoke her, the calmer she became. One day the bullying reached a new level. Ada was walking down the hallway with her bag when Kemi suddenly pushed her hard. Ada stumbled slightly but quickly regained her balance. "Watch where you're going, Forest Girl," Kemi said, laughing. Ada looked at her calmly, adjusted her bag on her shoulder, and said softly, "Be careful with what you start." The words were simple, but the tone carried a weight that made Kemi stop and blink. Bola nudged her friend. "Did she just—" "She sounded different," she whispered. Kemi laughed nervously. "Forget it. She's just trying to act smart. We'll see." But deep inside, both girls felt uneasy. Ada's quiet confidence was unlike anything they had faced before. Most people would cry, yell, or run when treated this way. Ada did none of these things. In class, Ada continued to focus on her studies. She paid attention to the teacher, took careful notes, and helped other students quietly when they needed it. Her calmness was not fear or weakness, it was a kind of strength that no one understood yet. At lunch, Kemi and Bola tried another trick. They hid Ada's lunch bag behind the lockers. When she went to look for it, they laughed loudly. "Where's your little bag, Forest Girl?" Kemi teased. Ada simply smiled, found her bag behind the lockers, and returned to her table. She ate quietly as if nothing had happened. The other students watched, curious. Some admired her patience, while others whispered about how strange it was that she didn't react. "Most people would be furious," one boy said. "But she just smiles." The teasing continued for days. Kemi and Bola tried to humiliate Ada in every way they could think of. But every time, Ada's calmness and quiet intelligence made them feel uneasy. Their words bounced off her like water on leaves. One afternoon, while the girls plotted another prank, Ada walked past them with her bag over her shoulder. She did not look at them or speak. Her calm, steady steps seemed to say, "I see everything you are doing and it does not scare me." Bola whispered to Kemi, "Why doesn't she fight back? Don't you feel weird?" Kemi scowled. "I don't know. Something about her. I don't like it. But we'll get her." That evening, Ada sat alone under the mango tree, writing in her notebook. She wrote about her day, about her feelings, and about how she stayed calm when others tried to hurt her. Writing was her way of understanding her own strength. She knew that Kemi and Bola were only testing her. Their words and actions could not truly harm her if she did not let them. Ada understood something the other students did not. Real strength is quiet. Real power does not need to shout to be seen. The next day, Kemi and Bola were planning a new prank. They hid behind the hall lockers, waiting for the perfect moment to make Ada embarrassed in front of everyone. But when Ada walked by, calm as ever, their confidence wavered. Her quiet eyes, her gentle smile, and her steady pace made them pause. For the first time they felt unsure. Why doesn't she react? Bola whispered nervously. Kemi shook her head. I don't know, this is strange. Something about her. I don't like it. Ada did not know that her calmness was already starting to change the way others saw her. Students who had once laughed at her were beginning to notice her intelligence and patience. Even some of the teachers had remarked on her quiet courage. By the end of the week, Kemi and Bola were still plotting, but a seed of doubt had formed. They could not understand how this quiet girl, who seemed so small and ordinary, could be so unshakable. Ada, meanwhile, continued her routine. She walked through the halls calmly, helped classmates quietly, and smiled gently at anyone who looked her way. She did not need to fight or argue. Her quiet strength was enough. That night, Ada wrote in her notebook under the small light of her lamp. She wrote about how being calm in the face of cruelty made her stronger. She wrote about how small words and soft smiles could carry more power than anger or revenge. And she knew, deep in her heart, that the bullies did not yet know the real strength she carried. One day they would understand, but not through anger or shouting. They would understand through her quiet confidence, intelligence, and courage. Ada closed her notebook, put it under her pillow, and lay down. She smiled softly to herself. Tomorrow would be another day, another test of patience, but she was ready. She was calm, prepared, and unafraid. The bullies thought they could break her, but they did not know that a quiet girl could be the most dangerous of all, not with fists but with the strength of her mind, heart, and will. And so, in the crowded, noisy hallways of Brightstar High School, Ada walked quietly, her calm eyes watching, her small bag held close, and her mind already planning for the days ahead. She was ready for anything, and Kemi and Bola had no idea what was coming. The Brightstar High School auditorium was buzzing with excitement. Today was the annual science fair, and students from every class had prepared projects to showcase. The air smelled of glue, paint, and a faint hint of burnt wires from the electronics some students had experimented with. Parents, teachers, and students filled the seats, talking and laughing, waiting for the event to begin. Ada walked into the auditorium quietly, her small bag slung over her shoulder. She carried her project carefully, a model of a clean energy system that she had designed herself. It was simple yet impressive. Solar panels connected to small batteries, powering tiny bulbs and a fan. Most of the students had flashy projects with loud noises and bright lights, but Ada's was subtle and elegant. Kemi and Bola noticed her immediately. They had watched Ada for weeks, teasing her and trying to make her life miserable. They whispered to each other, smirking. What is she even bringing? Kemi said. Something boring probably. No one will care about her stupid project. Bola nodded. I can't wait to see her fail in front of everyone. The fair began, and students displayed their projects on long tables. Judges moved from table to table, asking questions and taking notes. Ada placed her project on the table carefully and stood behind it. She adjusted her notes, making sure everything looked neat. She remained calm, her small smile quiet but confident. One of the judges, Mr. Chaik, came to her table first. He looked at the solar panels and the small fan. Interesting design, he said. How does it work? Ada explained clearly and simply. She spoke with confidence, describing how the solar panels collected energy, stored it in the batteries, and powered small devices. She even explained how the system could help students in villages without electricity. Her words were simple, but her knowledge was deep. The judges nodded, impressed. They moved on to the next table, whispering to each other about Ada's project. Soon, more students gathered around, curious about the small model. They asked questions and Ada answered each one calmly, her quiet voice capturing attention. Meanwhile, Kemi and Bola had gathered with a few friends. See, Kemi said. No one cares. Her project is tiny. Look at those small lights, they barely even work. But as they watched, the small fan began to spin faster, and the lights shone brightly. Students clapped softly, impressed by the simplicity and effectiveness of the design. Kemi frowned. How? She muttered. When the principal, Mr. Ade, came on stage to announce the results, the auditorium went silent. He began speaking about the creativity and hard work of all the students. Then he paused and looked directly at Ada. Before I announce the winners, he said, I want to share something remarkable. Ada, the new student, was once a young inventor in her previous school. She gained recognition for her innovative ideas and has continued to work quietly, showing incredible skill and intelligence. A hush fell over the room. Kemi and Bola's mouths opened slightly in shock. They had never expected this. The girl they had mocked and teased was not just intelligent, she was a recognized young inventor. Ada stood calmly behind her project. She did not gloat or smile triumphantly. She simply looked at them with her calm, quiet eyes. Then, as if reading their thoughts, she said softly, Silence is not weakness. It is strength under control. The words echoed in the auditorium. Many students whispered to each other, amazed by her calm confidence and wisdom. Some of the younger students began to look up to her with respect. Even Kemi and Bola felt a strange discomfort. They had expected her to be weak and afraid, but instead, she had shown quiet power and intelligence. The judges moved around, inspecting Ada's project more closely. Mr. Chaik turned to his colleagues and said, This is practical, efficient, and innovative. She clearly understands her work deeply. I am impressed. Other students came to see the project, asking questions about how it could be used in real life. Ada answered patiently, demonstrating the small model and explaining each part. People were fascinated not only by the project but also by her calm demeanor and confidence. Kemi and Bola stayed in the back, whispering to each other. She's not just smart, Bola said. There's something about her calmness, it's like she isn't afraid of anything. Kemi frowned. We've been making fun of her all this time, but I don't know, she makes me feel, I don't know, nervous. After all the projects were inspected, the principal returned to the stage. It is my pleasure to announce the winner of the Bright Star High Science Fair, he said. Silence fell again. The first prize goes to Ada, for her exceptional project on clean energy and her outstanding knowledge. Applause erupted in the auditorium. Students cheered, parents clapped, and even some teachers stood to give her a round of applause. Ada walked to the stage calmly, accepting the award. She smiled softly, a quiet and humble smile that made her presence even stronger. Kemi and Bola watched in disbelief. They had mocked her, teased her, and tried to make her feel small. Yet here she was, standing proudly, calm and confident, admired by everyone. When Ada returned to her table, some students approached her to congratulate her. She answered with simple words, thanking them politely. She didn't brag or show arrogance. Her strength was quiet, controlled, and undeniable. Later, as the students left the auditorium, many whispered about Ada. She's amazing, one girl said. I can't believe she's so calm and smart at the same time. Even Kemi and Bola whispered to each other in the hallway. We never knew, Kemi said. We thought she was weak, but she's something else entirely. Ada walked home that day with her small bag over her shoulder. She felt calm, satisfied, but not proud. She knew that her strength came from patience, focus, and controlling her emotions. The teasing and bullying had not defeated her, it had made her stronger. Her quiet confidence had shown everyone that power does not always shout. Sometimes the strongest people are the ones who remain calm, even when others try to hurt them. By the time she reached her small home, Ada had already begun thinking about her next project. She knew that challenges would come, and she knew people would continue to underestimate her. But she was ready. Her silence, her calmness, and her mind were stronger than any bully could ever imagine. Kemi and Bola, on the other hand, walked home in silence. They felt embarrassed, ashamed, and even a little afraid. They had learned an important lesson: strength does not always roar. Sometimes, it is quiet, steady, and impossible to ignore. And as Ada sat quietly at her desk that night, writing new ideas in her notebook, she smiled softly to herself. The quiet girl who had been mocked and teased had revealed her true power, and everyone, including her bullies, had seen it. Ada knew that this was only the beginning. Her calm strength, intelligence, and patience would guide her through every challenge ahead, and no teasing, no ridicule, and no mockery would ever shake her again. The next day at Bright Star High School, the excitement from the science fair had not yet faded. Students talked about the projects, the awards, and most of all, about Ada. Everyone was impressed, not just by her clean energy project, but by the way she carried herself calmly and confidently. Teachers whispered to each other, students smiled and congratulated her, and even the younger pupils were inspired by her quiet strength. Ada stood near the stage, organizing her notes and project materials. Her mind was calm, her focus steady. She had thought carefully about what she wanted to do next. She didn't want to celebrate alone. She knew that teamwork and kindness were more important than winning alone. She called out to the students nearby. "If anyone wants to continue learning about renewable energy, I would like you to join my team," she said softly but firmly. A few students from other classes immediately stepped forward, excited at the chance to learn from her. Then Ada's eyes met Kemi and Bola, who were standing at the back with their arms crossed. Their faces showed surprise, even disbelief. Ada smiled at them gently. "I am inviting everyone," she said. "Including you." Kemi blinked, not sure she had heard correctly. "Me? Why?" she asked quietly. Ada looked at her calmly. "Because you didn't destroy me," she said. "You trained me to rise higher. Your teasing, your challenges, they made me stronger and more focused. I want to share what I have learned with everyone." Bola opened her mouth to say something, but no words came out. She could not understand why Ada would include them after everything they had done. Other students began murmuring, amazed at her words. They had never seen someone respond to bullying with such kindness and wisdom. Some even whispered to each other, "She is truly different. So calm, so brave." Kemi and Bola exchanged glances. Their faces softened slightly. They had expected Ada to shout, cry, or punish them somehow. But instead, she had invited them to learn and grow alongside her. Over the next few weeks, Ada worked with her new team. She taught them about renewable energy, how to build simple solar panels, and how to understand the science behind the project. Kemi and Bola were hesitant at first, unsure if they could trust her. But Ada treated them with patience and respect. She never scolded them or reminded them of the past. Slowly, Kemi and Bola began to change. They stopped teasing other students. They helped classmates quietly and learned to listen more. They discovered that Ada's calmness and intelligence were not only impressive but inspiring. She did not force them to behave differently, she showed them by example. One afternoon, as the team worked on a new project, Bola accidentally broke a small piece of equipment. She froze, expecting to hear anger from Ada. Instead, Ada smiled softly and said, "It's okay. Mistakes help us learn. Let's fix it together." Kemi watched silently, feeling a new respect for Ada. She had never known someone who could remain so patient and kind, even after being treated badly. She realized that strength was not about shouting or showing off, it was about staying calm, helping others, and using challenges to grow. By the end of the month, the team had built a more advanced energy model, and the students who had once mocked Ada were now helping her present the project to younger classes. Kemi and Bola were part of this team, quietly participating and learning. Their smiles had become genuine, no longer hiding arrogance or cruelty. Teachers noticed the change too. Mr. Ade, the principal, smiled as he watched the students work together. "Ada has not only shown intelligence but leadership," he said to a colleague. "She has taught even the most difficult students a lesson in kindness and respect." Ada's quiet strength had made the school a better place. She did not seek revenge or recognition. She had simply used her intelligence, calmness, and patience to show others the right path. One day, as the team was cleaning up their work area, Kemi spoke softly to Ada. I'm sorry for everything we did before. We didn't understand." Ada smiled gently. "It's okay. What matters is what we do now." Bola nodded. "We want to help, to be better." Ada reached out and patted their hands. "That is all I need to see. Kindness and learning are the real rewards." From that day, Kemi and Bola treated other students with respect. They no longer teased anyone and began to help those who struggled, just like Ada had helped them. The quiet girl who had been bullied had shown everyone that real power is not in anger, but in patience, kindness, and strength under control. And in every hallway, in every classroom, students began to look at Ada not just as the girl who won the science fair, but as someone whose quiet wisdom could change hearts. Ada knew that she had done more than win a prize. She had turned cruelty into learning, mocking into admiration, and challenges into growth. She smiled softly, knowing that the real victory was not in the award she held, but in the hearts she had touched. Months passed at Brightstar High School, and Ada's reputation continued to grow. Students who had once whispered and stared now greeted her respectfully in the hallways. She had earned admiration not by shouting or forcing attention, but by quietly showing intelligence, kindness, and strength in everything she did. Ada was elected head girl. Her parents and teachers were proud, but Ada herself remained calm and humble. She understood that leadership was not about being above others, but about helping everyone rise together. She wanted to make the school a better place for all students. One of her first actions as head girl was to start a new club called the Confidence and Respect Club. The idea was simple. Teach students to be kind, patient, and strong, even in the face of teasing or challenges. Ada invited anyone who wanted to join, encouraging students to support one another. Kemi and Bola were the first to sign up. They had changed since Ada had invited them to her science project team. Their teasing had stopped, replaced by curiosity and admiration. Now they wanted to learn how to become better students, better friends, and better people. During the first club meeting, Ada spoke softly but clearly. Being strong does not mean pushing others down. It means lifting yourself and others even when it is hard. True power comes from a heart that forgives, learns, and grows. Students listened quietly. Some were skeptical at first, but Ada's calm eyes and gentle voice made them pay attention. Slowly, they began to understand that being popular or loud was not the same as being strong. Ada's way of leading showed them that quiet courage could inspire more than anger ever could. Kemi raised her hand. Ada, I never realized how wrong we were before. We teased you, but now I see, you are strong in a way we could never understand. Ada smiled softly. It's okay. What matters is what you do now. We all have the chance to grow. Bola nodded. I want to be part of this. I want to learn how to help, not hurt. Ada nodded in approval. Then let's start together. Strength is better when shared. Over the following weeks, the club became popular. Students learned how to encourage each other, how to speak kindly, and how to stand up calmly against cruelty. Even those who had been bullies before were beginning to change. They helped classmates with homework, invited others to play, and shared knowledge instead of gossip. Ada led by example. She continued to excel in her studies, always helping quietly where she could. She spoke to students one-on-one when they were sad or struggling, teaching them patience, resilience, and self-respect. Her small gestures, sharing a notebook, explaining a lesson, listening carefully, made a big difference. Kemi and Bola worked alongside her, gradually earning the respect of other students. They realized that being admired was not about mocking others, but about encouraging them. Their transformation inspired others who had once been cruel to reflect on their actions as well. The teachers noticed the change in the school environment. The hallways were calmer, students helped each other more, and conflicts were often solved with words instead of anger. Mr. Ade, the principal, said proudly, Ada has shown us that leadership is more than rules and authority. She has taught the students about respect, patience, and courage. One afternoon, the club organized an event to help new students adjust to the school. Ada and her team guided them around, introduced them to classmates, and explained how to navigate the school with confidence. Kemi and Bola assisted, smiling and encouraging the younger students. The once popular girls had become leaders in their own right, inspired by Ada's example. At the end of the day, Ada stood quietly watching the students leave with smiles and laughter. She reflected on her journey, from the girl who had been teased and underestimated, to the head girl who had changed the hearts of many. She realized that true power had never been about winning awards or proving herself. It was about patience, forgiveness, and helping others grow stronger. Kemi approached her, bowing her head slightly. Thank you, Ada. You taught me that being strong isn't about fear or control. It's about kindness and patience. Ada smiled softly. You've learned well. That is the real power. Bola added, we want to continue this. Not just for the club, but for everyone in the school. Ada nodded. Then do it. Let this be the start of something bigger. Strength grows when shared, and hearts grow when kindness is chosen over anger. Months later, Brightstar High School had changed. Students treated each other with more respect. The hallways were filled with quiet confidence instead of loud arrogance. Even students who had once been bullies learned to listen, to forgive, and to act with care. Ada's influence had transformed the school, showing everyone that true power does not come from revenge or cruelty, but from a heart that forgives, encourages, and moves forward stronger. Ada continued her studies, continued to lead, and continued to inspire. Kemi and Bola remained her allies, working with her to make Brightstar High a place of learning, respect, and quiet strength. The students who had once mocked her now looked up to her, not in fear, but in admiration and understanding. And every day, Ada reminded herself that her calmness, patience, and gentle courage were stronger than any bullying, any teasing, or any challenge. The girl who had once been underestimated had become a leader, a teacher, and an example of what true power really meant.